Thanks for tuning in. I'm Alex Glaze with Jared Smith. This is Let's Bet It. A lot to get to today as we get ready for another exciting night of Thursday night football and a great weekend of college football. We're going to dive into all that. But before we do, Jared, I want to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit, learn a little bit more about you, and help people kind of get to know us a little bit. We're two East Coast guys, and it's got me thinking tonight because I'm going to be enjoying some crab cakes. It's a little early to be thinking about dinner, but I'm already. If you've had Maryland crab cakes, you understand why I'm already thinking about Maryland crab cakes. So I want to ask you, what is your favorite seafood as a Northeast guy?
You know, it's funny because our producer Jack puts these in the rundown, and I'm convinced he's the one that has this, food. He wants to know what we're going to be eating for our Thursday night, smorgasbord for these games, and he is getting me very hungry on this morning before I can even think about having dinner. But since it's kind of weird because I am a Northeast guy, but I grew up a little bit in South Florida too. So okay. I have a very different view of seafood than just the Northeast view. Like the South Florida snapper, swordfish, kind of like wild caught fish are the best. But there is nothing like taking a drive up I-95 to, let's say, the Newport, Rhode Island area. Maybe you go a little further to Massachusetts and you get involved with one of those lobster rolls. I went to Portsmouth a couple months ago to visit a friend in New Hampshire. And one of my favorite places is right on the river there. And it's like the best lobster roll I've ever had. So those New England lobster rolls, despite my love for like the wild caught fish down in South Florida and the Bahama areas, I do have a special place in my heart for the lobster rolls.
Listen, I'm going to have to send you some Jimmy's crab cakes from, from Baltimore.
I'll get involved with that.
I might have to send some your way because, listen, nothing's beating a Jimmy's crab cake. I'll tell you that right now. But all right, let's look at today's card. We're going to start with some of my laser sharp college football picks, and then we got our guy John Hyslop joining the show. We're going to dive into some Thursday night props and maybe pick a side in that game, and then of course we're going to wrap things up with our best bets. So without further ado, let's bet it. And we are going to start with some big college football games. It's a huge weekend. I want to start with a bone to pick. I have a bone to pick with the SEC. Why is Georgia, Arkansas at noon? Why
good question.
Which would you rather? Oh, listen, you're a Penn State guy, so I'm going to take a cheap shot at Penn State here. Would you rather watch Penn State, Indiana, or would you rather watch Georgia, Arkansas?
Personally, obviously, I'd rather watch Penn State, Indiana. But I actually, it's kind of funny. I'm glad that the schedule makers put Penn State, Indiana at night because it's one of those revenge games, and I think it holds a little more weight in my eyes at night. But again, that's a very personal bias for me.
I want a top 10 SEC match.
I certainly agree that if you asked me which game is expected to have a little more oomph to it, I would certainly put that oomph behind the SEC top 10. But it's a 19-point spread, so the game might not be close come third quarter, and the Penn State game a little tighter spread there with Indiana, but it's still double digits. But I do agree. I do think the marquee matchup would be the SEC.
Yeah, like you said, Arkansas between the hedges, catching 18.5 points at Georgia. All right, let's talk this through, Jared, because this is a top 10 matchup. Arkansas just pulled off a big win against Texas A&M. That's a game that I was on. They were the dogs there, plus 175 is when I got it. So, there we go. Now they're 3-score dogs. I really don't know what to think about this one, but you tell me because I have not seen any movement at all. And it seems like the entire world is on Arkansas on the points this week, kind of thinking along the same lines that we just kind of brought up right there. You see that 8 right next to their name and you see 18.5 and you're like, oh, I'll take the 3 scores. But the more I look at this game, the more I have trouble figuring out how Arkansas is gonna score. I mean, this Georgia defense is, I mean, they're on a different level here, and I just don't see how Arkansas can put up the points to cover this. But the thing that makes it interesting for me, which is I'm leaning Georgia right now, but I'm keeping an eye on JT Daniels. He's dealing with a lat injury right now, Georgia's quarterback.
Oh, that's impactful.
He's been dealing with, it seems like, an injury every week. It's something different for him. Stetson Bennett is a capable quarterback, but obviously if JT's not out there, that changes the whole game and the way we look at this thing. So I'm not picking a side right now. I'm leaning Georgia, but I'm going to pay attention to how JT's doing this week. But the thing I love the under for this one because, we talked about Georgia's defense. Arkansas also has a really good defense. And I also like that if JT maybe isn't 100%, isn't full go. We know that Georgia doesn't have a problem relying on that run game and just grinding out a win. So the under is the play for me. What is that? 46.5, 47.5 right now?
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I like the under. That's probably the play for me in this game. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, just some numbers here. Georgia leads the country in opponent yards per play, 3.1 yards per play allowed this season, which is crazy low. Arkansas, pretty good too, 4.0 yards per play, and they're also in the top 10. So I think both of these defenses have been very good. I was impressed with what I saw last week from Arkansas. And yeah. I think I don't want to, take too much into Texas A&M because I think they've got some problems as well.
A little overrated.
Yeah, I would agree, and I haven't been a big fan of Jimbo Fisher during his time there. But still, they have really good players, and I think, listen, everyone in the SC has really good players. But I'll say this about Sam Pittman: he has gotten the most out of his pig suey. 11-3 ATS in his last 14 as the head coach at Arkansas, which is really good because think about the teams that he's playing in the SEC every week to be able to cover the spread at that prolific of a rate. Pretty impressive. And it certainly makes you pause about backing and laying all those points with Georgia. I don't think I could lay that many points with Georgia. First of all, low total game, high spread, points are more valuable, tough to lay that many.
Yeah.
So immediately, the spread is almost half of the total. I mean, the spread's 18, 19 points. The total's 47. So
it's telling you that Arkansas is not as good as people might think. That's what Vegas
it's also power rating Georgia very high, and we're gonna find out how good Georgia is this week. If Georgia can cover this spread, I will put them in the contender category with Bama, because if they can show
they're not already there for you. They're not already there for you.
No, they're not. They're not in tier 1. They're still tier 2. Alabama is in a tier by itself. And then
Bama, Georgia, tier 1, and then everybody else.
I'll be honest. I would say 1A with Georgia, but if they go out and they blast Arkansas this week, I will say that they are ready to face Bama and make it a game. And we're going to see, you would assume if they win this game, the rest of their schedule. Actually, I don't know what the rest of their schedule is like. I would assume.
Well, they're going to play. They got to play Florida, and
they have to play Florida.
Bama. Yeah,
that is not going to be an easy game. But let's just assume that it's Bama, Georgia in the SEC title game. Right now, what do you make Bama 7-point favorite? If they win, if Georgia wins this week and covers, maybe it's 6.5. I don't know what that line would be. I'll ask some of the odds makers next week, based off what happens this Saturday, what they would make Bama, Georgia after what we see against Arkansas. That would be a fascinating question for me.
Absolutely. Another huge one in the SEC. Ole Miss at Bama.
Speaking of Bama.
15.5 points.
Woo!
And listen, I didn't love the big number in the Georgia game, but I love the big number here, and I'm going to take the points with Ole Miss. This is also one that hasn't really moved a whole lot. Just recently moved off 14.5 to 15.5. But am I crazy for standing in front of the Bama train in this one? No. I mean, I'm not? Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I just want to make sure. Ole Miss coming off a bye, right?
Yeah.
And this is an offense that is averaging 53 points per game. And I know that they haven't played anybody, but still, I mean, that's a high-powered offense with the Heisman Trophy favorite right now. Listen, I'll take the 15.5 points. We saw Bama against Florida. They have some weaknesses on that defense. Yeah. And I also like them coming off a bye. This is the biggest game of the year for Ole Miss, right? So they're going to get up for this one. The only reason why I'm nervous is because they haven't played anybody. I mean, I know that they're averaging 53 points, but they played Louisville, Austin Peay, and Tulane. So not a whole lot a stock to put in there, but they played them tough last year.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Bama's schedule hasn't been overly, powerful. I know they beat Florida.
And Miami. And Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, they handled Miami. But listen.
That was I think Miami's not as good as a lot. I mean, De'Aaron King is clearly banged up. I think if Georgia played Miami or if Ole Miss played Miami, I think Ole Miss might even be favored against Miami. I would say Georgia would be favored probably by at least a touchdown, if not more. So I think Alabama is really, really good. And I don't want to take anything away from what I think they figured out their quarterback situation. I think, Young's going to be a solid player going forward.
Oh, yeah.
But Corral's got the experience, and I would give the edge to Lane Kiffin in play calling. And when you look at the net yards per play numbers, I know it's close, but Ole Miss plus 2.7, Alabama plus 2.3. So not a lot of separation there. Alabama, and again, you're right. Ole Miss hasn't played the quality that Alabama has.
Right. The level.
I agree with that. I will concede that point. But I would say that Ole Miss has looked more explosive and dynamic on offense, top to bottom. And based on what we see every Saturday, I don't know if the strength of schedule matters as much unless you're playing really bad teams. And, Ole Miss has still played a couple of respectable teams. Tulane's
respectable, right?
Tulane's not bad. And Louisville's shown that they could score some points in certain spots too. So I think this game is going to be a shootout. The totals, I wouldn't touch the total. But I think there is a sliver of value on Ole Miss.
See, I got scared off the total. Was it at 81 now? I mean, it started off at 70. I mean, it's been climbing all week.
Crazy.
And I love the under, but I'm not playing that. I'm not playing the under because I want to
betting
enjoy
the under
game.
in a college.
I want to enjoy this game. I think that the game totaled 111 points last year.
It's 63-48. I mean, I could see a similar score this week.
I want to enjoy this one, so I'm not touching the total. I'm gonna play Ole Miss.
I agree. I'm on the Rebels as well.
Now, if I'm going to play that one, should I play that now, or do you think? I mean, we saw it go from 14.5 to 15.5. Do you think that gets even bigger, or do you think 15.5 is as good as it's going to get?
Tremendous question, because there was some weird line movement in this game. So, for those that are unaware with kind of how the lines originate, there's really only 2 or 3 sports books out there that originate lines. Everyone else kind of copies and takes this line and kind of makes it their own. But one of the originators out in Vegas, Circa, listen. This is not a knock on Circa. They do a tremendous job. They're very aggressive with putting lines out early. They hung a Ole Miss plus 20. I think it was either last week or very early this week.
Oh, wow.
And they got action on Ole Miss. Like people just were running to the window. Now, usually how they play it is they'll keep the limits very low early in the week, and they'll then, make the limits higher later in the week. So the early action they get is not going to break the bank. It's like $1,000 limits or something like that. But they got heavy action on Ole Miss early in the week on that plus 20 number. They took it down, and then they reopened it right around 16. It went down to 15. And you're right, it's kind of been hovering there throughout the week. I would expect it to stay there. Maybe it closes 14.5. But I do think you're going to get a lot of Ole Miss love because of the heavy price on the underdog and because of what we've seen from Corral and Lane Kiffin.
All right, which side are you on before we move on? Which side are you on?
Ole Miss. But to be fair, I also have a Matt Corral Heisman ticket at 9-1. So I'm a little bit.
Nice.
It is. I got in early on it, but I'm tempted to play. I saw on FanDuel Bryce Young's plus 300 to win in the Heisman. So I'm tempted to kind of, hedge a little bit there and maybe take a little slice of Bryce Young and then bet the Rebels plus 14.5 and try to thread the needle where Bryce Young has a great game and maybe the Rebels backdoor cover. And, I get that the Bryce Young ticket, a little bit of movement there next week. But I feel good about my position on Corral, certainly at 9-1.
All right, let's move on to the Big Ten. I'm going to defer to you first for this one. Michigan getting 1.5 points against Wisconsin this weekend. Which side are you on in that one?
This is my favorite play of the week, college and
Me
pros.
too. Me too.
I think this game is begging for you to bet Michigan. What did we see last week? Wisconsin lost by 28.
Terrible. They look terrible.
And Michigan won again, beat a Big Ten team at home. But let's dive into the numbers here. How is Michigan going to move the ball in this game? They only ran for 112 yards against Rutgers. And in their prior 3 games, they ran for 335 against Western Michigan, 343 against Washington, 373 against NIU. Those are rushing totals, not total yard totals. Wisconsin has the best rushing defense in the FBS. You are not running it on Wisconsin. It's not happening. So now you've got to throw it with Cade McNamara, who has attempted 16 passes, 11 passes, 15 and 11 in his 4 games this year. They're running like this wishbone 1940s offense with McNamara. I'd rather have Jerry McNamara out there throwing passes. I think it is going to be a bloodbath for Michigan this weekend. Wisconsin was 7-0 at home with fans in the stands in 2019. This is going to be Michigan's first true road game of the season. They haven't even left the state yet. I just think Paul Chryst and his team are going to be licking their chops in a plus revenge kind of bounce back matchup after they got blasted last week.
Listen, we are either going to have a phenomenal week or we're going to have an awful week because I think we've been on the same side for every game. And I couldn't agree more with you. Okay. Wisconsin's only given up 1 yard per rush attempt to opponent. 1 yard. One. And Notre Dame rushed for 9 yards last week. Like, it's just I couldn't agree with you more. I don't need to spend more time on this. Michigan can't run the ball. They can't do anything on offense. No. And I think this is a week where we see Wisconsin get back to running the ball. Graham Mertz
Yes.
could not have looked worse. And Rutgers ran for almost 200 yards on that Michigan defense last year. So I think this is going to be your classic Big Ten running defense, nasty, ugly, beautiful. It's going to be a classic Big Ten. It's going to be a classic Big Ten game. So listen, we're on the same side for that.
Isn't this like a trophy game? Don't they play for some stupid axe or something, right? Or like a boot, or like a spittoon or something weird, right?
I hope they do.
It's some kind of rivalry game.
It's gonna be nasty. All right, this one we might be on different sides for this one because I think you know how I feel about Notre Dame.
Yes,
this is a great game. I wish we had Lauren Jabbar on here for this one, but Notre Dame.
She will chime in tomorrow on this game. I promise you.
Home dogs against Cincinnati. The Irish catching 1.5 at home. I'll start. This is Cincinnati. This is Cincinnati's Super Bowl.
Yes,
this game could not be bigger for Cincy. They are not going to pucker up under the bright lights. They are ready for this game. The Bearcats coming off a bye. And listen, Notre Dame, what they looked, I mean, the score lied in that Wisconsin game, right? There's a lot of weird stuff that happened at the end of that game. That's not a great Wisconsin team. I don't think this is a great Notre Dame team. I think they're a little overrated here. And I think that this line is begging you to take the points with Notre Dame, right?
It is.
I'm laying the points with Luke Fickell. And I think that what Notre Dame's weakness is, their offensive line, is going to really struggle against one of Cincinnati's strengths, their defensive line and their quarterback pressure. I mean, they get after the quarterback. And I think that's going to be something to watch out here. This is not your typical group of five going into a hostile environment kind of game here. This is their Super Bowl. They want to prove that they belong in the college football playoff discussion. And if they win this game, I think that they will be in that discussion.
I'll say this. If you're right and all of those things happen the way that you just explained it, I will officially back off my position of Notre Dame's better than a lot of people think. This is the circle game for Notre Dame because I think it's a pivot point to the rest of their season. And you're 100% right. This is absolutely the Super Bowl for the Cincinnati Bearcats. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to win.
Right.
That doesn't mean that they're going to play well. They're still playing on the road against the top 10 team.
Coming off a bye.
Their schedule after this is nothing. Navy, Tulane is okay. Tulsa, USF, Eastern Carolina. You know, this is the last chance Cincinnati has to prove to people that they belong in the college football playoff. And that's not the case for Notre Dame. You know, they're going to get another chance. They're going to play UNC. Are they eligible to play in the ACC title game? I don't know that for sure.
Well, UNC is not as good as people think.
No, they're certainly not.
Yeah.
And actually, now that I'm looking at the rest of Notre Dame's schedule, they actually, other than a game against USC, they actually don't have a lot of tough opponents left. So this is actually this might be the last ranked team that Notre Dame faces this year. And that means that it's a put up or shut up game for them too, because they have college football playoff aspirations. They haven't lost yet. And I think they are a team that, again, I'll go back to this. I think the public sentiment on Notre Dame is very poor. And that's why the bookmakers made Cincinnati a favorite. The look ahead was Notre Dame. I think it was -1. No, excuse me. It was Notre Dame +1. So this line's moved 3 points in the other direction. I got to take the points here, but I don't love it because of all the points that you made. But to me, Notre Dame getting almost a field goal at home is a decent play.
Notre Dame barely beat Florida State. Should have lost at Toledo. Struggled with Purdue. That game with Wisconsin, fool's gold. If you're just looking at the box score, don't believe that. That's a lot closer than that score will indicate there. They haven't faced a quarterback like Desmond Ridder. I'll say that. I think he's going to have a big game. All right, let's switch gears and get into tonight's Thursday night football game. I want to bring in my guy, John Hyslop. John, thanks for tapping in with us.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Listen, you've been doing this a long time, so before we get into tonight's game, I want to ask you if you can remember your first ever sports bet. You remember it?
Oh,
whoa.
Great question.
Dude, I don't know.
Digging deep here.
I'd say the first time I remember actually like really being confident on a side and like getting into it with someone, like we didn't really bet money, but it was this girl's dad. We were watching the Super Bowl with the Buffalo Bills and Cowboys.
Oh wow.
The Leon Lett game.
Wow.
So I was I was like a freshman maybe in high school, and like he was so confident that the Bills were going to win. And like we were just kind of there, and I'm like, like there's no way, blah blah blah, and all. And that was like the first time I was really like, dude, like that was easy. You know what I mean? You're like, that one was pretty easy. Like maybe it's fun to gamble.
You're like, hey, this is easy. I'll
just bet all the time and get rich. But like,
it's so
like,
funny.
Why doesn't everyone do this? It's so
like,
easy.
why do people work? Like, geez.
Because I was thinking about a couple of moments for me, when I was looking at this question in the rundown, and I do feel like we are all competitors. We all want to play sports. Like that's where a lot of my drive comes from. I wish I was the one playing. And you feel like what's going to happen based off of, in your mind, you're like, wait, I can do this. I could. And you're right. It's that competitive advantage to say, hey, this is easy. I can pick which team is going to win here. And then that, of course, goes down a big rabbit hole of trying to, win money.
Yeah, well, I mean, then you go broke like multiple times. And then
that's the rabbit hole I'm talking about.
Oh, well, wait, that's how I went broke. Maybe don't do that anymore, And then next thing you know, you're decent.
All right, well, let's hopefully not go broke tonight. Thursday night football. Jacksonville Jaguars in Cincinnati to play the Bengals. Jags catching 7.5 points. A total set at 46.5. John, I'll start with you. Do you have a side or any props that you're playing tonight?
No real side other than like this is an obvious tease. With the Bengals, like they just find something on Sunday. I went with the Buccaneers. Just because I think there's like a 0% chance that Tom Brady's going to go into Gillette and lose like that. Like that place that's his house. That's a home game for them. Like you should see. I live up here, dude. There's guys with Buccaneers Gronk jerseys, guys with Buccaneers Brady jerseys. Like that's going to be
Tommy wants blood. Tommy wants blood.
And that guy's pissed. You know what I mean? Like they say that, oh yeah, we're good. It's like no, they're not. Like he hates the fact that they didn't want him or, whatever it was. Like something happened. Like you don't just leave. And, oh, no, we're fine. You know what I mean? Like something definitely happened that they'll never say. So he's going to kill them. So you got that. You know what I mean? So that's one reason why I went with the Bucs. But the Bengals, dude, the Bengals are undervalued. Like they're actually good. Like it's crazy to say, but their defense is going to take them somewhere. So once Burrow and them kind of figure out what's going on offense, like they're going to be dangerous. I mean, the Steelers stink. That's why they got beat last week. But the way the Bengals did it was pretty impressive. Like they shut it down. They
dominated, right?
Yes.
They dominated.
So now you get the Jacksonville Jaguars, who they're terrible. Like go back and watch that Arizona game. That was the luckiest first half lead you'll ever see in your life. Like they got smashed literally for every minute until like maybe a minute and a half left in the half. And ended up with 2 touchdowns, like one on the kick 6, and then you never saw the offense again. Like they're very bad. So I don't know how they're going to move the ball. I know the Bengals will figure out a way to score on them. I don't think the Bengals are going to go into the 40s or anything, but they should roll the Jaguars tonight. And all we got to do if we tease it is they got to win by 1.5. Like
win by 2. That's all we need.
Come on, man. Like
I'm with you.
Like what's the catch?
Definitely a good teaser spot this week.
Jared, what you got?
Yeah, it's a really good teaser spot for Cincinnati. I was really surprised. That was one of the things that when I was doing my weekly prep, usually I check a lot of these, analytical websites and I just take stock and, things first glance like, hey, what jumps out at me? Cincinnati being a top 5 DVOA after 3 weeks jumped out at me. That is not a unit we expected to be that good. I feel the same way about Carolina, which is another team that's kind of surprised me on the defensive side this year, but Cincinnati's defense might be the best defense that Jacksonville's faced this year. And that's not good news for Trevor Lawrence, rookie quarterback, rookie head coach on a short week. Slop, I think, I do like a couple of the touchdown props tonight. Trevor Lawrence being the one that might be the long shot, but this guy, Jamar Chase, I mean, goodness gracious, I sprinkled on him this week to win. Yeah, he's pretty good. I sprinkled on him this week to win Oroy. And I'm curious, when you're looking at the Thursday night game, Slop, does anything change for you with how you approach because they are different in a sense. Mm-hmm. And I think now that we're into the year and it's week 3, week 4, and the wear and tear of the season starts to take its toll, do you view the Thursday night games any differently?
Yeah, no. But I mean, it always changes. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's different. So, I mean, you can't be like, oh, this is a Thursday night game, so this is what we do on Thursdays. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but, like,
yeah,
on
sure.
this one, I was just thinking about, like, the how the running back is going to be different for the home team. Like, they can lean on Mixon if they want. So, the carries prop, you know, like, he should carry 20 times. Like, why wouldn't he? I
like that.
It's him and Derrick Henry are the only two that have carried it, like, 20 plus times a game so far. Everybody else is down like the fifth. Like, I think Mixon's carried it 15 more times than the next guy. Like, and that we're only talking 3 games. Like, that's crazy. So with the good defense, if I'm the coach, you know, the Bengals, I know the Jaguars aren't shaking anything. You know what I mean? Like, so we can just, here you go, Joe. You know,
20 and a half. That's the number tonight on DraftKings. I mean, that's pretty good. I think that's pretty fair.
A big number, but I mean, he could go over that. So I would think of it like that, like based on what I would do if I was, you know, the Bengals in the situation, given their roster. But I'm not an NFL coach, so no one's going to ask me what I would do. But and then on the other side, figure out a pass catcher, because those dudes are going to get down. And Trevor Lawrence is going to be throwing the ball. He's wild. So, you know, maybe a James Robinson might be a look. 3.5.
Prop bet guy had Lawrence completions, I think, this week, which I think that's a good one.
I like that one.
Yeah. I mean, dude, they're going to be throwing the ball. Like, they're
100%.
And plus you can't run on the Bengals anyways. So you have to throw. And then at the end of the game, you're going to be throwing it. So I think James Robinson at 3.5 receptions, that's how I would look at it. Is like, which pass catcher do I feel most comfortable with? And then, that's it. That's the only difference. On Thursday night games, they are different, but there's really no, like, this is a Thursday night way to do it. Because it's
game script. It's all about game script, right? We got to be like Quentin Tarantino with these things.
It really is. You just got to, like, what's the story going to be? Like, how is this going to play out? Because, I mean, game script can kill you if you're just looking at, this guy averages 5 catches per, like, throw that out the window when that team gets down or when they get up.
Yeah. You guys are burying Trevor and the Jags, so you're gonna hate my picks for tonight. I like Marvin Jones anytime touchdown.
That's not
Trevor's
bad.
Spicy. Trevor's favorite target, at least 8 targets every game this season. It's 2 touchdown in 2 of the 3 games. I'm getting a plus 200, so I like that, and I like the over in this game. I think that obviously Joe Burrow is going to have his opportunity to put up points, and Trevor's going to be throwing. And while you're talking about Cincy's defense, they have the 19th ranked pass defense. Mm-hmm. So I could see this being a 27-20 kind of game, maybe something like that. So
just get by on the skin of your teeth.
Listen, just get me there. I don't care what, just get me there. So I can see that. So I'm going to go with the over and the Marvin Jones play tonight.
You think we're disagreeing. We're really not. I mean, we're really saying the same thing. It's like, you're not saying that, these Jacksonville running backs are going to come in and do anything. You're saying that, a touchdown pass to Marvin Jones. Well,
maybe it's garbage time. Maybe it's 27-13. We get garbage time.
Exactly. They could be getting waxed the whole time. Jones gets a touchdown in the second half because they're throwing literally the whole time. And then we get our over just because, again, they're throwing the whole time. Jacksonville, also a little thing that might help us with the over is that in the first half, no team has been playing faster than Jacksonville. So that's going to push the Bengals. Like last week. Yep.
What do they do at halftime? Because second half,
I have no idea.
Get worse, John.
They still play fast. Again, it's just, but they have to play fast. So that's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of got to throw that out because there's a score involved. There's already a game script that's being played out. But first half tells you that they just want to go fast for some reason. Well, last week the Steelers, they're 32nd in pace in the first half. So this is a big difference for the Bengals. Exactly.
Interesting.
So maybe we see them have a couple more possessions because they didn't have a lot in the first half last time. Yeah. So this game could actually go over pretty easy just for the fact that we might see some points in the first half. And then if the Jags are chasing points in the second half, you're going to see a lot more possessions.
46.5 is a good number too.
Yep.
That makes me want to bet the first half over too. The reason why I like that number is because I don't think the books know what Urban Meyer's strategy is yet because
I don't think he knows.
Yeah, probably that's true. But if you're going to tell me that they're running a faster tempo than anyone could have expected, the rest of the league,
even the Bills,
that means that the number on their totals is lower, a point or two of hidden value there just because of that stat, which is a really good stat. I didn't even look at that stat. That's a tremendous
That pace is good just because sometimes
100%.
you're watching the games and you're like, man, these guys take forever.
Absolutely.
The ball. It's like, come on, hurry up,
It's to me, it's one of that and field goals are the two things that kill overs. Field goals in the red zone and teams that milk the entire play clock.
Turnover in the red zone makes
that's bad too. That's the worst. That's the death blow.
Yeah.
All right, Jared, what are your plays or props for tonight?
Yeah, so the Jamar Chase touchdown prop, I got that at plus 105 on MGM. Shop around. It's minus money on FanDuel. I think there's still some plus money out there if you want to find it. He scored 4 touchdowns in 3 games. I'll keep riding. If you're going to tell me that a guy that scored 4 times in 3 games is plus money, which means better than a coin flip to score again, I will take that until they move it to where it's minus money, and then I'll start to really back off. And I mentioned Trevor Lawrence, plus 450 for him to score. We've been really successful with these quarterback rushing touchdowns. We hit Sam Darnold last week. We hit Daniel Jones 2 weeks ago. That was Lauren's pick. And I feel like Trevor is now starting to run for his life. And he had 6 attempts last week compared to just 2 in the prior 2 weeks combined. So he's starting to run it a little bit more. He was a great runner in college. And I think now that he's getting a little more comfortable, I could see them calling a draw or some kind of screen pass for him where he takes off and runs out the other side and scores a touchdown in the red zone in this game. And again, plus 450, that's just a fun little sprinkle. The one I really like tonight's the Jamar Chase touchdown prop at plus money.
Awesome. Well, listen, Thursday night, and we're going to be watching Jags Bengals. I mean, listen.
It's football. It's the NFL. We're watching it.
Most perfect time of the year, right? All right, John, thanks. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. Let's get into our plays of the day, Jared. But before we get to our personal plays, let's go to the Pickswise play of the day. What you got?
Yeah, I feel bad. I promised John on Twitter earlier that I would let him pronounce this guy's name, but we were just so caught up in our Thursday night plays, we kind of slipped right past it. But there's a guy named Yahure pitching for the Pirates today, Miguel Yahure, and his strikeout total is 3.5. And our friend Sloppy John likes the over there at plus 105. I won't get into too much as to why. Go to Pickswise.com and you can read it for yourself. Prop Bet Guy also has a very low strikeout prop available today on Pickswise.com, and it is Madison Bumgarner for the D-backs in his old ballpark facing his former team, the Giants. Tough spot, obviously, because the Giants are still trying to clinch the NL West. However, again, very low total, 3.5. If you want to read more as to why, head to Pickswise.com. Great K-props on the board today, Alex.
Wow, 3.5. That is really low. Maybe
Very low.
Maybe I'll take a look at that one. But my play of the day is actually a teaser. We kind of got into this a little bit. I got the Bengals in there, so I got them down to minus 1.5.
I like it.
I also threw in the Seahawks. Going to be getting 9 points. Russell Wilson. He's got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and you know what? They're going to be going against that Niners defense that has. I mean, me and you could be playing DB for the Niners right now. Their secondary is absolutely decimated. So I like Russ to have a big game, and I love getting 9 points in that spot. So that's my play of the day. I got a teaser. First time doing a teaser in this spot.
Such a tease, Alex. Such a tease.
I know. What's your play?
So it's clinch day for the Atlanta Braves down there in hot Atlanta, and I'll tell you what, Philly has looked completely lifeless the last couple of nights. They had 2 of their best starters. Actually, I would say their 2 best starters, Nola and Wheeler, on the mound the last 2 nights, and they still could not get past Atlanta. The magic number is 1. That means all Atlanta has to do is win 1 game, or all Philly has to do is lose 1 game for the rest of the year, and there's 4 games left in order for this division to go in favor of the Braves, and I think they will get it done tonight. Kyle Gibson's been really rough. He's allowed at least 3 runs in all 5 of his starts in September. And on the other side, Ian Anderson's coming off a very good outing, 7 innings, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts against Arizona, 24 strikeouts in his last 3 starts, spanning 17 and 2/3 innings. So Anderson's pitching well. Gibson's not pitching well. And listen, the Braves are hot. 9-1 in their last 10. They've won 5 in a row. Philly's lost 3 in a row. You ride the momentum late September, early October.
Oh, I was with you. We don't believe it. We don't believe in momentum. Come on.
Momentum.
Come on. No,
Let's go Braves.
Real.
I'll say this. Our momentum was stopped last night by the Yankees, our 7 straight POD.
I mean, that was a wild game.
It was a great game. I wish my boys did a little better there, but unfortunately, they were unable to get across the finish line. But we're going to start a new streak tonight. Braves money line.
I like Braves money line. I like Ian Anderson. They're a dangerous team in the playoffs. I don't know if they have the arms, but they definitely have the bats. All right, that'll do it for us today. Let's bet it. Jared, good luck tonight with your plays. I'm going to be dual screening it tonight. We're going to have baseball on one screen, and we're going to have Thursday Night Football on the other. So best of luck to all of you out there with your bets.